Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call our meeting to order for October 27th, 2025. Bonjour tout le monde. J'aimerais déclarer cette réunion du 27 octobre 2025 ouverte. Before proceeding to the agenda, I want to recognize that Ottawa is located on unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Host Nation. The people of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The Ottawa Police Service Board honors the peoples and land of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. Today, Ottawa is home to approximately 40,000 First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Ottawa's Indigenous community is diverse, representing many nations, languages, and customs. The Ottawa Police Service Board honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and their valuable past and present contributions to the land. Just a cautionary technical difficulties. We are currently broadcasting on Zoom and live streaming on YouTube. Should we receive any disruptions, I would ask that everyone remain patient as we work to fix the issue and resume the meeting as soon as possible. Today, prior to this meeting, we held our in-camera meeting. I can report on the following in terms of items considered in camera. Operational update, major events and demonstrations. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2K, information that Section 8 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act would authorize a refusal to disclose if it were contained in a record. The board received a debrief on the management of previous events that took place. No decision was taken with respect to this item. An operational matter. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2K of the Community Safety and Policing Act. Information that Section 8 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act would authorize a refusal to disclose if it were contained in a record. The board did not make a decision. Labor Relations Unit Report, third quarter 2025. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2D, Labor Relations. The board did not make a decision. Delay application. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employees of the board. The board did make a decision. Legal Services Status Report, Settlements, third quarter 2024. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2E, litigation or potential litigation affecting the board, including matters before administrative tribunals. F, advice that would be inadmissible in a court by reason of any privilege under the law of evidence, including communications necessary for that purpose. The board received an update on legal claims and actions filed against the board in the previous quarter. No decision was made with respect to this item. One labor relations matter, the board considered these items in camera pursuant to 44.2D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and 44.2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual. A decision was made regarding the labor relations matter. 3 legal matters. The board considered these items in camera pursuant to 44.2E, litigation or potential litigation affecting the board, including matters before the administrative tribunals, and F, advice that would be inadmissible in a court by reason of any privilege under the law of evidence, including communications necessary for that purpose. No decision was made in relation to 2 of these matters. A decision was made in 1. Personal matter, the board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employee of the board, and D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and F, advice that would be inadmissible in a court by reason of any privilege under the law of evidence, including communications necessary for that purpose. No decision was taken. I will now proceed with the confirmation of the agenda. Item number 2, confirmation of the agenda. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board confirm the agenda of October 27th, 2025 meeting. Is the agenda confirmed?
Confirmed.
Thank you. Confirmation of minutes. 3.1 minutes number 120 of September 29, 2025. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board confirm minutes number 120 of the September 29, 2025 meeting. Are the minutes confirmed?
Confirmed.
Thank you. Number 4, committee meetings, reports from committees, chairs, and minutes. 4.1, Human Resource Committee, draft minutes number 25 of October 7, 2025. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this item for information. Is the item received?
Received.
And then 4.2, Finance and Audit Committee, draft minutes number 34 of October 10, 2025. Is the fact October 10th committee minutes received?
Received.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? We'll move on to public delegations. We have 2 public delegations registered to speak today. When I call your name, you'll be able to turn on your mic and board. The board has set aside 1 hour as part of its regular meetings to hear delegations from members of the public. Je vous rappelle que la Commission réserve 1 heure de ses réunions ordinaires aux interventions de membres du public. Advanced registration is required by noon on Friday prior to the meeting date. A written copy of the comments that will be presented must be included at the time of registration. Delegations may speak to agenda items or other subject matters that are within the jurisdiction of the board. As a reminder, it is set out in our bylaw for public meetings that once a presentation to the board is complete, any dialogue between members of the board and the delegation is limited to members asking questions for clarification and obtaining additional relevant information. We are essentially in listening mode. In addition, delegations may not direct questions to the board or to the service for a response. Questions posed in the remarks are noted, but will not be responded to. I will now proceed with the first registered public delegate, Mr. Robin Brown.
Mr. Attorney General.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Robin.
Excellent, thank you. Hello, I'm here today to speak about how the actions and inaction of both the Ottawa Police Service and this board demonstrate a systemic disregard for the human rights of racialized people, especially Black people in Ottawa. We can see this disregard reflected in how the OPS responds to violence in our community. After the August 27th stabbing of a Jewish woman at the College Square Loblaws, the OPS responded swiftly and appropriately, issuing a press release about the status of the investigation and publicly acknowledging the seriousness of the attack. And that was the right thing to do. So why didn't the OPS do the same thing for the November 2024 assault of a Black man at Herdman Station, or the August 25th assault of a Black Muslim woman, Arfan Barrow, at Blair Station? Why didn't the OPS issue press releases on those investigations? And why didn't the OPS call the November 2024 attack a hate-motivated crime, as it did just 2 days after the Loblaw stabbing? In an October 21st CBC article about the attack on Ms. Barrow, she asked, quote, why the incident was never made public despite being investigated by the Hate and Bias Crime Unit of the Ottawa Police. The attack left Barrow, a 64-year-old Muslim woman who wears a hijab, with injuries that she said are still healing nearly 2 months later, unquote. Ms. Barrow said, quote, I want people to know my pain, to see what happened to me. With all the evidence that they have and the pictures that they have, they could see that I've been badly injured in this incident, that people need to be warned that this kind of thing is happening, unquote. But neither police nor OC Transpo issued a public statement about the assault at the time. The CBC article says the OPS refused an interview request about the incident, but noted in a statement that they don't publicize every hate-related investigation they undertake, saying the decision is based on privacy considerations, the need to protect the investigation, and whether public assistance is needed. So I have some questions, rhetorical ones, of course, because we aren't allowed to ask direct questions. So Why didn't the OPS issue a press release after charging the woman who attacked Ms. Barrow? The investigation was over, and there was clearly no more need for public assistance. So was it for privacy reasons then? And if so, whose privacy? Not the accused, because charges are public. So was it Ms. Barrow's privacy? Is that it, Chief? Did the OPS not issue a press release about charging the woman who attacked Ms. Barrow out of concerns for Ms. Barrow's privacy? If so, did you ask her if that's what she wanted to do? Because that would have been the right and respectful thing to do. And while we're talking about respecting people, the right, respectful thing for you, Chair, to do at last month's meeting would have been to not to approve Councillor David Hill's delegation, which painted all Ottawa-based pro-Palestinian groups as anti-Semitic. Councillor Hill read anti-Semitic messages, allegedly from a few members of a pro-Palestinian group at Western University, and implied those messages represented the views of Ottawa-based activists and organizers. That was deeply troubling. But what was more troubling was that no board member condemned his remarks. And that silence speaks volumes. It's time to speak up about that, just like it's time to speak up about something that causes much more harm than hate crimes by individuals. The OPS's continued disproportionate use of force against Black and Middle Eastern people. After months of dragging its feet, the OPS finally set a goal to end its disproportionate use of force against Black and Middle Eastern folks by the end of 2027. Now, that means the OPS is openly acknowledging that it will continue violating the human rights of racialized people for at least another 2 years. That's unacceptable. No public institution should be setting a multi-year timeline for ending racial discrimination. The goal should be immediate compliance with human rights, not gradual improvement. Now, Chief, you often end your verbal reports to this board with stories of laudable acts by OPS officers. How about ending your report with a story about the impact of OPS officers' disproportionate use of force on Black and Middle Eastern people? Because that might motivate them to stop doing it. Ottawa City Council has chosen its 4 priorities. Those are a city that has affordable housing and is more livable for all, a city that is more connected with reliable, safe, and accessible mobility options, a city that is green and resilient, and a city with a diversified and prosperous economy. A city with more police is not one of Council's stated priorities. So given all this, my message is for the 3 councillors on this board. I know Councillor Carr is at an event, I'll just add, so follow your own stated priorities. Rather than giving the OPS its biggest budget increase in 15 years, continue reimagining community safety by shifting money away from the Ottawa Police to things that actually respect people's human rights and keep us all safer, like affordable housing, mental health supports, youth programs, and a truly non-police, community-led mental health crisis response system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Appreciate your delegation. Any questions from the board members? Seeing none, I want to thank you, Mr. Brown, for delegating today. Thank you. Our second delegate is Jeffrey Bradley.
Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Mr. Bradley. Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you. Hello, I'm here today to discuss the Ottawa Police Services Community Youth Unit, or what I like to call the rebranded School to Prison Pipeline Unit, and the real harm that police presence in schools causes, particularly for racialized and marginalized students. While the CYU may frame itself as a supportive unit with a program aimed at building relationships with youth and educating them proactively, the reality on the ground is very different. For many students, especially Black, Indigenous, LGBTQ2+, disabled, and impoverished youth, the presence of police in schools is not comforting. It is intimidating. It fosters distrust and anxiety. Instead of feeling safe in educational institutions, these students feel surveilled, criminalized, and excluded from spaces that should be nurturing and inclusive. Research confirms that experience based on multiple human rights evaluations of police and school programs where students are discriminated, hurt, and forced to believe policing is inevitable in our future. A study from the University of Ottawa done by Moffat and Bruckert found that majority of marginalized and racialized residents of our city have deep distrust towards police. Only about 1 in 5 indicate any level of trust. This is not surprising given the historical and ongoing experiences of systemic racism and discrimination in policing and public institutions. One must question if the OPS is showcasing this police unit. One of the reasons they're showcasing it is to make the case for bigger budgets and to create a false belief that police are required to increase safety in schools. The impact of police in schools is more than just discomfort. It feeds the school to prison pipeline. As I mentioned, Black and Indigenous students in particular are disproportionately monitored, disciplined, and criminalized for minor misbehavior. The result is that students are funneled from classrooms into the criminal legal system, perpetuating cycles of disadvantagement, marginalization, and trauma. Community consultations in Ottawa have made this clear. Families, students, and educators have shared stories of negative encounters and horror stories, including officers sexually assaulting young women and engaging in the adultification of racialized students in school, highlighting how police involvement has worsened relationships rather than strengthened them. If our goal is safety and trust, we must radically change our approach. This is why I joined the call for police-free schools across the province. This is not about rejecting safety. It is about redefining what safety looks like and not allowing the entrenchment of police. It is about creating healing-centered, equitable schools where students can thrive without fear. Instead of funding police officers in schools, we need to invest in non-carceral solutions such as mental health support, restorative and transformative justice programs, peer mentorship, community-led conflict resolution, and other initiatives that address the root causes of crime. These are the strategies that truly foster trust, safety, and belonging for every student. They also have a cost benefit, I must mention, $7 for every dollar invested. In sum, I urge the board to freeze the OPS budget and question why these rebranded units continue to grow when we have other effective solutions. Freezing the budget is more than a financial decision. You might be surprised I'm not calling for defunding for once. It is a moral and practical step. Resources currently spent on policing could instead support community safety initiatives, education, housing, and mental health services. Freezing the budget halts further expansion of policing in schools and public spaces, protecting students from the harm that comes from hyper-policing. It also frees up public dollars for more pressing issues during an affordability crisis. So let us dismantle the structures that cause harm and instead build schools where every student can feel safe, supported, and valued. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Any questions or comments from board members? Member Donaldson.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Bradley. I guess I have to call in a question. The survey that you referenced, because when I wasn't aware of it before, so thank you for the opportunity to go back and look at it. But the preamble to it is we developed a predominantly qualitative research project to document encounters with the police in Ottawa. So my understanding is that the reference you made was for a qualitative survey that only talked to people who had incidents with the police in the past. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, so it was like 251 accounts of police interactions that they did in that study. Of course, there's probably others that weren't included in that sample. So I do acknowledge that there probably is, some that are missing from that study, but I think it does speak to the interactions that people wanted to share. And actually, a number of them did also, share experiences that weren't necessarily negative. So I just wanted to plug that in.
I guess the counter argument to that is that the surveys that were done to assist the police service in determining what the budget should be found that non-white, non-Indigenous individuals felt that the police were doing an excellent or good job 62% of the time, and an average job 25%. So it's counter argument to what you did. The other thing, and this is just because of my having had an opportunity to work with the CYU or spend a couple of days with the CYU, you referenced the CYU may frame itself. And my observation is they certainly do frame itself from a number of instances where they're working with youth. So I'm wondering if you have any quantitative data to suggest that the fact that the way they're framing itself may not necessarily be accurate.
I would say, yeah, I mean, obviously the surveys that are done, like I wouldn't be as confident on them being like representative of all communities. I think Obviously, any study has its limits, but yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying as well, that there is obviously, there is data from different studies. I would just argue that I think, bringing the police back into the schools isn't necessarily going to address the roots of what's happening here, right? Which is we are hearing of increases in violence and other things, but I think the province and maybe also the city could be investing in, better solutions like conflict resolution or more teachers' aides or other restorative justice programs inside. Now, it's not to say that police never can be called. That's obviously, if there's a situation that warrants that, of course. But yeah, I don't think that it's necessarily one or the other.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Mr. Bradley, so how would you say what considerations would be important to introduce, sort of reintroduce, I should say, sort of police back in the school environment? Like what would be for you important considerations that should be either dealt with in advance or during?
Yeah, I think
to make it successful, because a lot of people would say that there are sort of kind of upstream benefits as well when police are in schools, and as youth grow older, there's more trust, there's more ability of them to seek police when they require, when they're in adult situations, etc. So just be interested in hearing from you on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would like to see more data to see, like, another evaluation would be interesting to do. I think to see, like, have those perceptions changed around policing in schools. What does that look like? I'm obviously not like supportive of it, but maybe there is a different hybrid format or something to move away from just sort of that enforcement model. And I do understand that this unit is trying to say it's going to be proactive, but I am sort of worried that it might not be listening to the direct voices of students. So I would like to see more of that, and obviously, caution to any sort of armed force in a school. It worries me as an educator that I know we have different behavioral issues that are coming up. But I just worry about that, for students that aren't comfortable with police in uniforms, or the potential for racial profiling, or people being, handcuffed or harmed in any way. So those are my things that come to my mind. But yeah, I don't necessarily have like a solution to rebrand it. I don't think it should be rebranded, but yeah, I mean, you'll take many diverse perspectives into consideration. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. That's helpful. Again, any other comments or questions from board members? If not, I just want to thank you, Mr. Bradley, for delegating today.
You too.
And that concludes our delegations portion of the meeting. We'll move to agenda item number 7, inquiries. Are there any inquiries? Seeing none. Agenda item 8 is our items of business. So we will be holding 8.1, the chair's report. We'll hold 8.2, the chief's report. 8.3, we have a presentation, so that'll be held by OC Transpo. And 8.4 is also a presentation, the community youth unit, so we'll hear from them. 8.5, does anyone wish to hold 8.5? And seeing none, just to note that it's an amended recommendation. It's only for one table. So I will read the amended recommendation in that the Ottawa Police Service Board approve the purchase of a table for the annual Ottawa Police Gala being held on November 8th, 2025 at the Rogers Centre at a cost of $2,500. Is the item carried as amended?
Carried as amended.
Thank you. 8.6, it's the reappointment of Special Constable City of Ottawa. Does anyone want to hold this item? I'm going to read in the recommendation. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board approve the reappointment of one City of Ottawa employee listed in Appendix 1 as a special constable for the City of Ottawa Transit Services pursuant to Section 92 of the Community Safety and Policing Act. Is the item carried?
Carried.
Carried.
Thank you. 8.7 is the 2026 Budget Consultation Report. Would anyone like to hold this item for discussion? Welcome, Vice Chair. We're just at 8.7, 2026 Budget Consultation Report, and I asked if anyone would like to hold this item.
I'm just getting my documents ready. No, I think I'm fine with that. That's not the big, yep, I'll be good. Thanks.
Good, everyone's good? Okay, so it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Received.
Great, thank you. 8.8 is the CSPA update, training, compliance, current state, and recommendations.
Hold, please.
Eight 8.9 is the complaints report, Police Services Act. Anyone wish to hold? Seeing none, it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Received.
8.10 is the Safe Workplace Program Annual Report 2024-25. Would anyone like to hold this item? Okay, it is therefore recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Thank you. 8.11 response to inquiry I-25-08. Would anyone like to hold this report? Okay, it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Received.
On the consent agenda, it's 8.12. Would anyone like to pull an item out of the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none, is the consent agenda carried?
Carried.
Carried.
Thank you. Eight 8.13 is the Legal Services Status Report 2025 third quarter. Anyone wish to hold? It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Received.
Thank you. 8.14 outstanding board inquiries, motions, and directions, October 2025. Would any board member like to hold this item? Okay, it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Received.
Okay, letters of commendation is 8.15. We will hold this. And we'll now go back to the beginning. And I'll just start with 8.1, the chair's verbal report. Let me just start off by recognizing that October is a busy month when it comes to recognizing and celebrating some of the many communities in our city. It is a month for Islamic heritage, German heritage, and Latin heritage, as well as Women's History Month. October also includes Diwali and Bande Chor Divas, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, St. Francis Day, and more. These observances remind us of the many communities, identities, and traditions that enrich life in Ottawa. More than simply recognizing this diversity, they offer an opportunity for us here today to reflect on how inclusion and respect strengthen community safety and our shared responsibility in that regard. We know that when communities feel seen, valued, and respected, it builds trust and people are more likely to participate in collective safety initiatives. Listening isn't essential to this. It is part of what we do as a board, and we seek opportunities on an ongoing basis, including, for example, the Palestinian Listening Circle I attended recently. I want to take this opportunity to thank the Community Equity Council for organizing this event. This is one of several listening circles the Community Equity Council has organized to create space to share experiences of the relationship between communities and the Ottawa Police Services and offer suggestions for improvement. The structure is important. Community members talk and Ottawa Police members, along with guests like me, listen. Participants shared what they want fellow residents and police to know about their experience and sense of safety in the city in general and in the face of what is happening. Again, thank you, Community Equity Council, for organizing that. I want to next go on to the budget process. I want to remind the residents of Ottawa who are listening or watching now or later on YouTube that they can submit a request to present at upcoming board meetings on issues on the agenda or any matter within the board's jurisdiction. As I know the police budget is a topic of significant public interest, please note that the draft budget will be tabled on at the November 12th Finance and Audit Committee meeting. Thereafter, the next meeting of that committee for budget feedback will be November 21st. We are asking the residents of Ottawa to present their feedback on the budget by delegating at that meeting. Written comments to the board are also welcome anytime. And lastly, just reappointment of board members. Just as a brief note on the board's membership, I'm pleased to confirm that my colleague, member Henshaw and I have been reappointed by the province. And that will conclude my verbal report. Are there any questions or comments? So we'll just read it in the recommendation that the Ottawa Police Service Board received the chair's verbal report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Thank you. And now we'll turn it over to the chief for his verbal.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. I want to begin my verbal report by drawing your attention to the agenda item that references the 2026 budget consultation report. I know it got carried and received a short time ago, but I tell you, there's a lot of information in there. It reflects months of hard work across the service and a really great example of how we're grounding our priorities in real engagement, solid data, and open conversations with the people we serve. And the package does answer the board's request for an update on what we've been hearing from the community and what the data is telling us. We're listening closely to residents, to councillors, and community partners to understand what matters most. And people want to feel safe. They want to see officers more present and engaged. And they want to know that when they call, we'll respond with care and compassion. And these requests from the community align directly with our strategic plan, from district policing, traffic safety, to member wellness and community partnerships. And I think it shows that we're moving the service in the right direction, in line with the community's demands of us. De mon avis, cela montre que nous faisons avancer le service dans la bonne direction, selon les attentes de la communauté. We've heard for years that police aren't medical professionals and need to work with those that have a higher level of training in dealing with people in a mental health crisis. We agree. We took a big step this past month with the launch of our first mobile crisis response team, a partnership between our mental health unit and the Ottawa Hospital, who have been great partners. This team brings together a specially trained officer and a mental health professional who respond side by side to people in crisis. Their goal is simple: to provide immediate, compassionate support and connect people with the help they need. Right now, one team is operating Tuesday to Friday during the daytime and evening hours. The officer works in plain clothes but remains identifiable as police, while the hospital clinician wears professional attire and protective gear. Together, they respond to calls across the city, offering de-escalation, on-scene care, and follow-up connections. Early results have been very encouraging. The team handles about 3 calls a day, often preventing hospital apprehensions, reduced waiting times, and strengthening community connections. And there are plans to expand to 3 teams in the coming months. And I have to say, between our mobile crisis team, the Anchor program that is run by the community, the paramedics mental health response program, and what's really exciting, the Royal Ottawa's intention to open an acute care service. The police and the community are elevating our response to people experiencing a mental health crisis. I will note one thing, that this new program will not take away from the work of the Anchor program. The calls that were diverted to them will continue to be diverted. I'm proud to share that the Ottawa Police Service will be hosting our first ever Indigenous recruitment event on November 4th and 5th. And this is a unique opportunity to strengthen our connections with the Indigenous communities. Je suis fier d'annoncer que le Service de police d'Ottawa tiendra son tout premier événement de recrutement autochtone le 4 et 5 novembre. C'est une occasion unique de renforcer nos liens avec la communauté autochtone. The event is designed for Indigenous people who are interested in pursuing a policing career. Attendees will learn about the recruitment process and connect with others who share a passion for community-focused policing. This first of its kind forum is an exciting step forward in creating opportunities for Indigenous voices to be heard and inspiring future leaders in policing. Our mounted unit is now operational and was recently involved in its first arrest. While conducting proactive patrols along the Britannia Park Path system, officers engaged with an individual who was later identified as a suspect in a serious assault earlier that week that was hate motivated. The mounted unit also patrolled during the day and evening during the Panda Day at the beginning of the month. That event went very well, and I thank our team on the ground, as well as both the University of Ottawa and Carleton University for their partnership and collaboration. Sadly, our homicide unit is investigating 4 homicides this month. At the beginning of the month, 55-year-old Justin James Weir was found with stab wounds in the area of Saint Laurent Boulevard and Montreal Road. He was transported to hospital, but later died from his injuries. In another incident, 21-year-old Raphael Attend was fatally stabbed on Russell Road. And 21-year-old Joshua Kiyuk, who was found deceased on Meadow Park Place, has been determined to be a homicide as a result of a stabbing. That investigation is also ongoing. And lastly, on October 15th, the shooting of a male on Somerset Street West. Unfortunately, on October 24th, 38-year-old Nelson Getson succumbed to his injuries in hospital. Our investigators are continuing to work tirelessly to bring answers and justice to the families affected by these tragedies. We ask the public to assist. Nous demandons la collaboration du public. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Homicide Unit or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477 or online at crimestoppers.ca. The first phase of body-worn cameras training took place earlier this month at our Professional Development Center. 30 officers participated in the sessions, led by an expert from the Toronto Police Service. This marks an important milestone as we prepare to roll out body-worn cameras across the service. We remain on schedule to launch the program in November. Nous sommes bien placés pour lancer le programme en novembre. I want to thank everyone who helped organize and deliver this first phase of training. Your efforts are helping us take another step forward in transparency, accountability, and public trust. I want to highlight the excellent work of our street crime, drug units, which was supported by our neighborhood resource teams. Earlier this month, they executed 9 search warrants targeting locations suspected of unlawfully selling psilocybin, better known as mushrooms. Officers seized over 14 kilograms of dried psilocybin mushrooms, large quantities of psilocybin-based products, and more than $10,000 in cash. 9 individuals have been charged with 18 offenses, including possession for the purpose of trafficking and possession of the proceeds of crime. Even after these initial warrants were executed, 2 locations reopened, and our teams executed additional search warrants to address them. I also want to remind property owners and landlords that knowingly allowing illegal drug sales on their premise can lead to criminal charges and asset forfeiture. A few weekends ago, our members took part in the annual 9 Run, Run, Run event in Stittsville. It's a fantastic day that brings together first responders, families, and community members while raising funds for the First Responders Foundation, which supports mental health and wellness. Our members showed up as they do every year, with great energy and community spirit. And of course, a special shout out to Deputy Chief Bell for winning the Chiefs Chili Cook-Off and knocked off our friends from the Ottawa Fire Department, who were the defending champs. The Red Ribbon Campaign with Mad Ottawa launches in November, continuing our shared effort to end impaired driving. So far this year, 648 drivers have been charged with impaired-related offenses, nearly matching last year's total of 659. And of those calls, 267 drivers were stopped thanks to calls from the public. So thank you for those reports. We do respond. I also want to recognize another remarkable moment where our members helped safely welcome a new life into the world. Last Friday, you may have seen in the news, it was heavily reported on, our officers were flagged down for a very unique call. Jeremy and his wife, Caitlin, were on their way to the hospital, but she was in active labor and it became clear that they wouldn't make it in time. Constable Nicholas and Sergeant Charon quickly responded, providing support and ensuring both mom and baby were safe until paramedics arrived. Thanks to their quick actions, both mom and baby were safe until they arrived. And moments don't happen too often like this in our world. So it's a reminder that of all the work that our members do. So bienvenue au monde, baby Jack, and congratulations to Caitlin and the whole family. I also want to recognize the outstanding work of Constable Brad Doyle and Todd Harper from our Byward Market neighborhood response team. While on active patrol, they came across a violent stabbing at a bus stop at St. Patrick in Cumberland. A man was on top of a woman, repeatedly stabbing her. She had sustained multiple stab wounds around the neck and shoulders and was bleeding heavily. The officers immediately stopped their vehicle, confronted the suspect at gunpoint, and safely took him into custody. They immediately provided first aid to the victim until paramedics arrived, and she was transported to the hospital with serious injuries. There is no question that Constables Doyle and Harper's vigilance, quick decision-making, and courage saved this young woman's life. This was incredibly dangerous and an unpredictable situation, and their professionalism and bravery made all the difference. Congratulations. As well, lots going on this month. Our Marine Dive and Trail Unit, for their incredible work, they were out dive training out of town, and the team spotted a group of civilian divers in distress. One diver had lost their weights underwater and made a rapid ascent and surfaced, showing clear signs of medical distress. Without hesitation, one of our paramedics entered the water to assist, supported by an officer who is a certified medical dive technician. Together, along with the assistance of the other team members, they brought the diver safely to shore and provided immediate care until local emergency services arrived. The diver was later transported for treatment and is expected to recover. I can tell you our MDT members perform some of the most demanding and high-risk work in policing. They train in unpredictable environments, so when that moment occurs, like what happened, they are ready. And I'm proud of their commitment and their readiness to protect and save lives, even when they're off duty or outside of regular operations. Lastly, I'll share a part of an email that I received from a member of our community who contacted police related to a road rage incident he witnessed in Canada earlier this month. And part of the email reads, "From the very first moment that I dialed 911 until after submitting my written statement and thanking the officers for their help, the call was handled with extreme professionalism, effectiveness, and care. Their demeanor was incredibly genuine, calm, personable, and professional, treating everyone with complete dignity and respect. C'est toujours encourageant d'attendre directement les membres de la communauté parler de l'impact positif de notre travail." I want to thank our frontline officers and our police communicators for their outstanding work they do every single day. Chair, that was a bit long, but lots going on. Thank you. Back to you for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. I'll turn it over to members if they have any questions for the Chief. Questions. So again, thank you for that verbal report, Chiefs. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Thank you. 8.3 is the OC Transpo Special Constables Unit Annual Report 2024. And we have with us today Troy Charter, Interim General Manager of Transit Services. and Sabrina Passian, Chief Safety Officer, and Chief Special Constable Peter Sislowski from Transit Services. So I am going to turn it over to Chief Sislowski, to you and your team for the presentation, and welcome everyone.
Thank you, Chair. Troy, did you have something that you wanted to start out with?
Oh, Steve, or Peter, why don't you get right into the presentation? That's great. I just want to say thank you very much for having us here. Great opportunity. We're really, really proud of what our special constables do each and every day. And we're extremely proud of the positive relationship we have with the Ottawa Police Service. I think the work between the special constables and the police service really demonstrate the commitment towards ensuring that our transit system is a safe and secure system for our riders and our customers. So really thankful for the opportunity to be here. And Pete, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Troy. So as you may know, I've met most of you, but for those who don't know me, I'm Peter Sislowski, and I'm the Chief Special Constable at OC Transpo. It's my pleasure to represent our entire unit and to provide the board with a brief presentation on our special constables. I'm also going to highlight some of the key information found in our 2024 annual report. While we have been providing annual reports for many years, with recent changes, we thought that it would be an excellent opportunity for us to provide a reintroduction to our special constables within transit services. So I think there's a presentation. Oh, there it is. Next slide, please. So I want to start by giving a brief overview of the entire special constable unit. Everyone within the unit reports to me, and I report to Sabrina, the Chief Safety Officer. The Special Constable Unit has two primary public-facing groups: our Special Constables, appointed as sworn peace officers by the board, and our Fare Inspectors, appointed by City Council as municipal law enforcement officers. Our unit is also supported by additional support staff, such as communications officers who are responsible for taking calls from staff and the public and dispatching calls for service to Special Constables. We also have an investigator who is responsible for investigating more complex incidents, occurrences, and complaints. We have a crime intelligence analyst who assists special constables with strategic deployment and supports investigations. We also have operational support clerks and clerical staff who are responsible for providing support with report writing, clerical duties, and project management. Our special constables are deployed across the entire transit network throughout the city of Ottawa. Special constables are divided into 4 platoons. Each platoon is deployed in 4 zones: central, south, east, and west, based on known hotspots and through complaints received by the public, staff, and councillors. Deployment is based on a data-driven approach. Special constables are deployed 24/7, 365, and our fare inspectors are currently deployed Monday to Friday and conduct fare inspections on buses, trains, and within transit stations. Next slide, please. Our special constables focus on protecting customers, preserving the peace, helping those in need, and enforcing legislative authorities granted by the board. They respond to calls on foot, by bike, and by vehicle. Special constables attend calls throughout the entire city, whether it be on buses, in bus stations, in bus shelters, on trains, at park and rides, or the various administrative buildings or garages. Further, our special constables help to coordinate safety and security initiatives for a variety of special events, protests, and unplanned service disruptions. As part of this year's successful Canada Day and Blues Fest, our officers coordinated with security contractors to help manage overall crowd safety and our queuing system. Special constables are granted the authority to exercise the powers of a police officer on or in relation to transit property through the Community Safety and Policing Act and our agreement with the board and the police service. In order to ensure our special constables are providing a fair and robust service to the public, each receives extensive training. All special constables receive approximately 15 weeks of in-class and field training based on the Ontario Police College Special Constable Training Manual, including thematic training focused on Ontario's diverse society, the rights and culture of Indigenous peoples, and human rights. Additionally, we train all special constables as medical first responders, applied suicide intervention skills, and naloxone administration. Next slide, please. In April 2024, significant changes to the regulations that govern special constables were made with the introduction of the Community Safety and Policing Act. The Act outlines various regulatory and reporting requirements that must be fulfilled. Further, the memorandum of agreement signed between the board, OPS, and Transit Services outlines additional reporting requirements such as the annual report. Moving forward, we will provide the annual report in June of each year to mirror the established process and timeline of OPS. Next slide, please. As previously mentioned, the CSPA was introduced in 2024. The previous regulatory framework, the Police Services Act, provided limited guidance on special constables. However, the new CSPA introduces significant improvements and temporary challenges to the industry. The most significant challenge, which has now been resolved, was the requirement for organizations that employed special constables for decades to become an approved special constable employer under the new act. This requirement was not communicated in advance, and delays in the initial approval process led to significant operational challenges. Staffing challenges arose as we were unable to request the appointment of new hires or the reappointment of existing staff. These staffing challenges ultimately led to a period of 12 days in October 2024, in which calls for service had to be redirected to other emergency services such as the Ottawa Police, Ottawa Fire, and paramedics. Through collaboration between Transit, OPS, City Council, and the Ministry of the Solicitor General, our special constable employer status was approved and our staffing levels were able to stabilize. To ensure compliance with the Act, an internal compliance review was conducted to determine all regulatory requirements under both the agreement and the CSPA. Work has been progressing well on resolving all action items from this compliance review, and we are on track to have all items implemented before the end of this year. As you would have seen, I've issued several memos to the board and the chief regarding internal investigation reports and changes to appointment status of special constables. These reporting requirements are identified within the agreement and the CSPA. My team and I have been working diligently to operationalize these reporting requirements, and you can expect to see memos such as these moving forward. Further, we will be providing the quarterly report as required in Section 81 of the agreement via memo. The quarterly reports will be provided 1 quarter in arrears to allow time to ensure that most, if not all, active investigations and reports have been closed. Next slide, please. As you may know, as part of the Ontario-Ottawa Agreement, funding was allocated over a 3-year period by the Ministry of the Solicitor General to various partners in the city. The Special Constable Unit was recipient to a portion of that funding. With this funding, we have been able to stabilize our staffing levels with ongoing recruitment campaigns. While our recruitment efforts progressed, we used a portion of the funding to increase overtime and bolster our staffing of special constables in the field. We have had great success in our recent recruitment events and are on track to have all agreement-funded positions filled with appointed special constables by the end of this year. With these staffing increases, we will soon be able to have a much greater presence of special constables on the transit system, particularly in the downtown core. This funding and the staffing increase has allowed us to completely reimagine how our special constables are deployed. Specifically, once all positions are filled, we will be transitioning to a 6-platoon deployment model. A new deployment model will allow for significant staffing overlap during our busiest times of the day, while also dedicating a 7th platoon to being highly visible and proactive on the system. In addition to staffing, funding has been used to increase our capacity to deliver in-house training. For example, 2 special constables recently became certified as police mountain bike instructors, while another 4 became qualified as Ontario Police College Special Constable Use of Force trainers, meaning that all future training can be conducted internally. We have also used funding to procure essential safety items such as new body armor, uniforms, vehicle equipment, and medical supplies. To support the increase in staffing, 8 new cruisers have been purchased and will be on the road soon. To support the significant recruitment campaign, funding was also used towards community and recruitment engagement events, as well as SCU branded material. Finally, and I'll touch on this later in the presentation, through the agreement, we will be launching a new public safety and security reporting application. Next slide, please. I've met with many transit agencies from around the country, and I truly believe that we have one of the best partnerships with our police service and one of the best agreements with the board of any other agency. Because of the authorities granted by the board, we estimate that thousands of calls for service each year are handled by our special constables that would otherwise require the response of an Ottawa police officer. One thing I want to highlight from the 2024 annual report is the notable and positive decrease in many of our KPIs. As you can see on the screen, crimes against people have decreased by 13%. Occurrences related to property crimes and the Mental Health Act have both decreased by roughly 22%. Drug offenses decreased by nearly 40%. These results were through a combination of many internal and external factors, but are very encouraging. Staff will continue to monitor these KPIs as well as many others to determine any new and emerging trends. Next slide, please. I want to take this opportunity to discuss public safety. As you may know, safety has been on the forefront of everybody's mind recently, and as we've said before, safety is our top priority. In light of some recent occurrences, I want to highlight that we condemn all acts of violence on our system across the city. I want to reiterate that transit is safe, and I want to ensure that everyone feels safe taking public transit. In recent weeks, I've received a lot of questions on what customers should do if they experience or witness safety or security concerns while using transit. Every OC Transpo vehicle is operated by an employee who has the ability to directly communicate with the Transit Operation Control Center and ultimately the Special Constable Unit. If customers feel unsafe or want to report a crime, speaking to any employee will ensure the matter is addressed. And of course, in an emergency, they can call 911. Customers at transit stations or park and rides can also use the yellow emergency call boxes to speak directly with our special constables, or by contacting us directly at 613-741-2478. Additionally, on our website, there's an after-the-fact reporting option. Despite all these safety measures, unfortunately, incidents can still happen in public spaces. The team is currently working on a new holistic public safety campaign. As part of this, through the funding received through the Ontario-Ottawa Agreement, we are actively increasing the presence of special constables across the entire network. Further, as mentioned earlier in the presentation, we are exploring a new public-facing safety and security reporting app, which will allow customers to communicate directly with our special constable unit via chat messaging or by phone, allowing for real-time discrete communication and reporting. Recently, we reestablished a transit safety working group, which will collaborate with several community stakeholders to develop initiatives that will improve safety and security on the system. The OC Transpo communications team has been using social media, our website, and advertisements on the system to reinforce messages about safety and security on the transit network. Next slide, please. Finally, I wanted to take a moment to highlight some of the many community events, partnerships, and programs that our unit participates in. Public engagement and outreach are a core part of building positive relationships between our special constables and the community we serve. In the top left, we celebrated the heroic actions of one of our fare inspectors who received a life-saving award from St. John's Ambulance for their quick actions and use of Narcan to save a person experiencing a suspected drug poisoning. In the top middle, SU was joined by OPS, members of the OC leadership team, and the mayor to show solidarity with the Muslim community at an event in Canada. Top right is a photo from a councillor event joined by the OC mascot, OC Owl. Bottom left from the St. John's Ambulance flag raising ceremony at City Hall. This event highlights the strong partnership we share with St. John's Ambulance and our shared commitment to public safety and community service. The center picture was from a joint OPS SCU safety event held at Blair Station in November last year. Just below on the left, we have a picture of some of our special constables participating in the law enforcement torch run for Special Olympics. To the right of that, a photo of one of our cruisers during Doors Open Ottawa, where residents were able to take a sneak peek at one of our new Confederation line stations. And bottom right, a photo of myself and members of the Montreal Transit Special Constable Unit following a day of collaboration. These are just some of the many ways in which our special constables positively engage with the community. We also lead our own community safety initiatives and participate in citywide task force. Our annual Grab and Go campaign will be kicking off soon, which is an officer-led initiative to equip all cruisers with donated winter clothing items to provide to those in need while present on the transit system. Further, we are part of the city's Unsheltered Task Force, a group made up of several internal and external stakeholders who focus on strategies to reduce harm and improve conditions for people experiencing homelessness. Next slide, please. Thank you all for allowing us the time to present the 2024 annual SC report and to provide a high-level overview of the service the Special Constable Unit provides to transit and the City of Ottawa. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Thank you very much, Chief. We've got a couple members up. So I've got Member DeRoche, followed by Member Donaldson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Very good presentation and very informative. Thank you for that. The question I have for you is the question that I often say to the police as well. How do you ensure presence on the platform, on the buses, on the train system? How do you prioritize that so that there is an active presence and that the officers are not, say, parked in a car, in a parking ride, or somewhere that's not visible? To me, I think, one of the key facets of the work needs to be visibility and presence. And you see that in other transit systems throughout the world where you go into stations and you see police or constables, what have you. So how do you prioritize that and make that part of the culture and work that you're present and you're on our system?
Thank you for the question, member. I think a big part of that comes down to staffing. Like I mentioned, with the funding that we've received and we're able to increase staffing, I think what we'll see now is a lot more special constables on the network. As I mentioned, we're going to have an entire platoon that's solely dedicated to being on foot in stations. You mentioned a culture of being present. That is something that we're trying to instill now, that we're able to say, prior to this, we've had certain amount of officers on duty at a time. Many of them are responding to back-to-back calls. Now that we're going to have that overlap of staffing plus the proactive team, we're starting to get into the role of, instead of just being call response, you need to be visible in the stations. A lot of it comes down to our stats, encouraging focus patrols in station, which is what we call them when they're out on foot. And that's something that we see a positive change in. So we're hoping that as the staffing starts to increase and they're coming out onto the road, that we're going to see that increase in presence in the stations.
Okay, thank you. That's good to hear. So do you see a scenario where officers would get on at Bayview potentially and travel all the way to Limebank on the train? Maybe they get off at various stations and then get back on, and that's their beat all day long, just being on a system and responding. I appreciate that they can't then respond to say the bus network, right? Because they're tied to that. But I really, really, really would like to see that presence on our train system. Like we're obviously expanding our system later this year in 2026 to the east, and then in 2027 to the west. I think it's going to be critical that your team are on the trains and having a beat. So will we see that scenario take place given the growth that we're seeing in the train system?
Thank you for the question. That's partly why having that separate platoon that's dedicated to just being proactive is important. When we have increases in staffing, like I said, where we have overlap, we can have them present, but they still need to be somewhat near their car in case there's calls for service. Where if you're having a separate platoon like we plan on having, that are completely dedicated to just being proactive. They're not expected to be responding to calls for service unless there's something that happens right in front of them. That's where you can dedicate people to being on the train, riding from one end to the other, like you had mentioned. So yes, I do see that in our future.
Well, you do have the bikes, so in theory you could bring the bikes on the buses and what have you there. So again, I'll just leave with that plea. I think we need, given that with the investments we're making in rail, given the feedback we received on safety, I don't know how we don't have people on those trains and participating. Next question is around how do you ensure that the work you do is truly special constable and not, to be blunt, security guards? Because if you're doing security guard work, then I think OC needs to hire security guards to do that. The special constable work, that's why you're deputized. That's why it's such a tremendous authority that's been granted. That's where I want to see you work, is in those special constable roles, and less so on kind of things that would perhaps be a security guard that would respond to it. Maybe I don't have a good viewpoint on that, but I'm interested in your views on how do you make sure the work you're doing is truly special constable work and not something that could be done by something else?
Thank you for the question, member. So I did watch the last board meeting, which you'd asked a similar question about that. So I ended up doing some digging behind that. I know that you had mentioned alarm calls. So alarm calls made up only 4% of our total calls for service in a year. So relatively small number. Many of those were for public washrooms along the system. So they are members of the public that are in these washrooms when the button is hit. And then I'll just go back to the security focus part of it. You know, it's difficult for us to get away from having any security portion of the work that we do, although it does make up a very small percent of our total work now. You know, it's only been less than 20 years that we've been special constables. Prior to that, we were security guards. So, you know, when I looked at the last board meeting and I read through your question, a lot of our alarm calls are related to the public. You know, we could look at something with a security guard aspect, but I think, you know, it's such a small number of the calls for service that we respond to that it's not really feasible right now.
Okay. No, that's a fair. I appreciate the analysis that's gone into this in preparation for tonight on my question. Hopefully, we'll just keep an eye on that because again, it's an important function you have, and that's where I'd like to see the effort going to kind of the public safety side of it.
Councillor Deroche, if I can maybe just add in, if you wouldn't mind, if I could just take a few minutes or another minute as well too. Just, you know, what we've also been investing in with OC Transpo, especially on the rail lines, is, you know, a lot of remote monitoring of, you know, these types of alarms, right? So we've got a great CCTV camera network, and our control center is really linked into a lot of those alarms that could come in. So, you know, the control center will know what that alarm is, and then we'll be able to dispatch the appropriate personnel, i.e. a technician, to respond to alarm. And then when you look at like the security guard type activities, you know, you see things like, you know, on Blues Fest and Canada Days when we need extra resources that, you know, just to really help manage queues or volumes of people, that's when we really sort of rely on contracted services in terms of security guards. I 100% agree with you. We don't want our special constables performing security guard duties. They're well trained, and there's a lot more value they can bring. So, but when there is those requirements for security type personnel, there's been opportunities where we've contracted that service out to those entities, but 100% aligned with your thought process on that.
Yeah, thank you. Because you see the evolution with police. You have police constables, special constables, and then you have auxiliary, right? So in theory, like maybe there's an OC Transpo auxiliary if you see that the trend is greater than what you see now. It's helpful to hear and good to hear, reassuring to hear that the non-special constable role is very small, and I hope that will continue. Otherwise, I think we need to look at it. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, I will just say I'm very grateful to the province for the investments in the special constables. Their presence is critical to the system. You can see from the report today that they play a big role in ensuring the safety of the system, and that's a key part of attracting our riders, that they feel safe when they're using OC Transpo. So very grateful for the investments of the province. Thank you. That's all, Chair.
Great, thank you. Member Donaldson, and then I'll go to Member Curry.
Thank you, Chair. Member Drosh sort of touched on a couple of things I was thinking of, but I'll try and rephrase it, because one of the things that's interesting is if you look at the advancement of Ottawa Transit from a bus-only kind of environment to where we are with LRT and the 2026, 2027 expansions, I'm wondering what that impact is for special constables as far as not only your staffing levels, but also your distribution of those individuals. And you alluded to one component you're looking at, but I'm just curious about what the future 2 years out looks like for OC Transpo and the special constables.
Thank you for the question. I can speak for right now. The way that we're going to have them deployed is across our zones. So the zones would cover as every aspect of our stations, our entire system from one end of the city to the other. So the way that the deployment will work is we'll have a certain number of special constables in certain areas of the city, depending on ridership, you know, our overall calls for service throughout the day. But I think that as we expand into this 6-platoon model, there's going to definitely be a learning curve. So, you know, where should we be deploying staff? Are we now seeing that more calls for service are happening further east now that the system has expanded out that way? And then once it goes to the west, are we now seeing more calls for service happening out that way? And then I think what would have to happen at that point is we would have to rejig how we're deploying our staff at that point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Curry.
Yeah, so I really appreciate having this report and people to talk to here. I did want to make a comment on the incident on the bus that involved a Muslim young woman in Canada, and just to give people an idea of what happened after that. It was a unique circumstance for sure, but the reaction time and the reaction of a lot of the people on this call right now was impressive. And I would say that the Canada Muslim community was very, very pleased to see the attention. At the time of the incident, I received a text from a leader in the Muslim community, and I just happened to be sitting beside the chief of police at a conference. I know that doesn't happen every day, chief, that you and I are sitting beside one another, but immediately the chief was able to contact DC Burnett. We were able to talk right away to our chair of the board here, connect with the family, and immediately connect with OC Transpo. The photo that you saw there, that event that was held in Canada at the transit station. Thank you, Bart, and thank you, Troy, for your communication at the time, and Sabrina and DC Burnett for attending with the mayor. In the end, there was an arrest made very quickly. All people coordinated as they needed to. So I really wanted to thank everybody for that, and how connected you were to the community when that happened. So I wanted to say thanks to everybody publicly for that. And I've had so many positive comments since then. The question I have had is that incident, there was not a camera on that bus. It was an older bus, I gather, but our newer buses all have cameras. So I wondered if there was any comment anyone wanted to make about the coordination that a camera and the special constables allows with police whenever there is an incident, and any comment you might have on that going forward with cameras.
Thank you for the question, member. So you're right, not all of our buses have cameras on board. When it is a bus that does have a camera system on board, we are collecting that CCTV footage from inside of our control center, and we are sharing it with the special constables that are on the road. If the incident that happened falls outside of our mandate under the agreement, then that's when we would be contacting the Ottawa Police Service and then also sharing that footage with them. So anytime that there's any incident, whether it be at a transit station, on a bus that has cameras, we immediately share that information with our special constables. And if the Ottawa Police are dispatched, we'll also share it with them.
And eventually all of our buses will have them.
I can jump in on that one, member. Yeah, right now we've got a number of our buses on our fleet, but council made the decision a few years ago that as we purchase new buses, all buses come equipped with a camera. So we're currently in the process of, purchasing 350 buses. So in a short period of time, when those 350 buses are in, we'll have close to over half to 3/4 of our bus fleet will have cameras. And then, at that point, we'll be talking about the next procurement, which would then include the remainder of the fleet.
Wonderful. Great. Well, thanks again to everybody on that. I think the chief may have a comment.
Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a quick comment just on the presentation and a few comments made by the team here about the relationship between the police and the OC Transpo Special Constable team. I just want to echo that. I really do believe the chief and the team there have done an outstanding job, particularly in the last couple of years, really getting focused and making having a positive effect on the transit system, working very well with us. We do have a really good relationship. I too appreciate that extra funding from the province. I believe they really needed that boost to really get their numbers up so they could have this positive effect that they're starting to have. So not to say that they weren't before, but more is better in this regards, particularly on a growing transit system. So kudos to the chief and the team, and really appreciate their partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I think on the board, we'd echo the similar comments, and you heard some of the comments from Curry there as well, for the work you guys do, for what the special constables do across our city. So I'm seeing no more questions. So I just want to thank all of you, Mr. Cormier, Mr. Charter, Ms. Passion, and Chief Soslowski, thank you very much for coming today and providing the annual report to the board. So I'm going to read in the formality of it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to 8.4. It's a presentation as well. It's the educational presentation concerning the Community Youth Unit. Again, I'll turn it over to the chief for this. You and your team, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to wait until our team gets in here. We have a couple people that are going to present. Before I'm sure it's on. Before they do, maybe I'll say a few words. Of course, as part of our board education series, we are going on different topics, one topic every month. Today, two passionate leaders from the Ottawa Police Services Community Youth Unit, Acting Sergeant Paul McCormick and Strategic Youth Services Manager Jessica Ripley will be presenting for you. Look, I know social and crime issues affecting our youth resonates with many of the board members, and today's session will offer that valuable insight into how the Community Youth Unit is working to address it. Paul and Jessica will share how their team engages with youth, with parents, teachers, and the community partners to build trust, to prevent crime, and support young people in meaningful ways. Really, their work is a great example of how strategic, community-based policing can really make a difference. As was, I think, mentioned earlier today, this evening, I do support the work of this unit and their return to the schools. I think it's crucial, and we see it every day. We saw it last Friday. We had two violent incidents at two separate high schools Friday afternoon. We need to be there to build those relationships, to build that trust, and to prevent a lot of these incidents from occurring. But you'll see also in their presentation, you'll look at some of the statistics and some of what they're going to see, and you're going to hopefully be convinced of that as well too. But again, you're also going to see not only the stats, but you're going to see the passion of the two people presenting. Deputy Burnett has this unit under his purview, but in the interest of time, I'll turn it over to Paul and Jessica.
Thank you very much, Chief. To the Police Services Board, thank you very much for having us this evening. We are excited to present to you our Community Youth Unit and who we are, what we do, and how we do that. I am Acting Sergeant Paul McCormack, and I am in our Community Youth Unit.
Jessica Ripley, Strategic Youth Services Manager, also in CYU.
To give the group a broad overview of some of the current trends that we're looking at with youth, these are typically what we're seeing. The social media is a huge presence in everybody's life, but with youth, we're seeing cyberbullying, sextortion, sexting is definitely a thing. The online gaming and gambling is certainly present and poses its own risks. And we're also seeing these criminal behaviors, like the increase in youth violence and assaults. An example of that might be these thefts that we're seeing en masse at Dollarama and Walmart. The increase of sharing in intimate images and radicalization. These are things that are also on the forefront when we're looking at youth trends. And of course, we've got our human trafficking, missing youth, the group home component of this. And if you have any young people in your life, whether it's maybe a niece or a nephew, son or daughter that's in high school, ask them about the vaping in the washrooms. Is it a thing? And ask them open-endedly, see what the response is. Because to me, in my experience, this is a bit of a catalyst to other things like violence and threats, threats with weapons. We're seeing an increase of replica firearms. Really is an issue in our city. And the next slide is going to show not the anecdotal part of this, but our statistical side of this. The youth incidents are on the rise. These stats are derived from our crime analysts who use stats from reported incidents, from the public. And we can see that mental health incidents are on a steady increase of 39% since 2018. In the middle, we have the child sexual abuse and exploitation material, also on a rise. And on the far right, we have youth assaults, and they've seen a sharp increase of 91% from 233 to 446 since 2021. Next slide, please.
Partnerships. We certainly cannot do this work alone. Partnerships are critical to the work that we do every day. They help us better understand the youth and the families that we're interacting with. We rely on them for our referrals to resources, to services and programs. We rely on them to train our officers with their subject matter expertise. And also we consult with them around our youth strategy to make sure, as we are ever changing it, as the youth trends and issues evolve, we're continually looking to validate it with them. Of note, in terms of partnerships, that we also chair local, provincial, and national networks of police services. So we're also well connected there with our policing partners in terms of emerging trends and issues across the country. Next slide, please. The youth strategy overview. So our youth strategy really guides the work and the direction of our entire community youth unit. We have a centralized command structure, which allows for everyone to be guided by the same mission, pillars, and outcomes. So our mission statement is to collaborate with partners to address root causes to reduce both victimization and criminality. In terms of pillars, foundationally, in terms of how we do our work, community partnerships, as I mentioned in the previous slide, are critical for us. The recognition of the impact of root causes, we want to understand the risk and protective factors impacting young people. There's reasoning behind the behaviors that they're exhibiting, and we want to understand them. There's a continuum of responses, so it's certainly not a one-size-fits-all, and we'll look at that in the youth strategy. We really value ongoing specialized training of our youth officers, and we want to make sure that the work we do is evidence-based. In terms of outcomes we're looking to achieve, in the short term, we want to look at getting the right response at the right time to the right young person. We do not want to overexpose young people to the justice system more than we need to. In the long term, we want to reduce both the frequency and severity of victimization and offending. Next slide, please. So here's a visual representation of our youth strategy. I want to call your attention to 3 elements in the slide. The first is, you'll notice that it's based on the community and safety well-being framework from the province. So you'll recognize surely some of the language, some of the colors we've used. Secondly is the 80-20. So we are looking for our officers to spend 80% of their time doing social development prevention and risk intervention in that space, and only 20% of their time in reactive incident response. It's really important for us. That's where we're focusing our energy and our work efforts of our officers. Thirdly, is we're offering a continuum of response. So from proactive engagement all the way down to positive reintegration, we recognize that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, that our young people, we have many tools in our toolbox that we need to take out when working with young people. Next slide, please. I'm not going to read through this slide in full detail. It is an operational slide, so it does help to explain the work that our officers are doing on this team. What I will do is I'll highlight 2 or so from each one of these pillars to give you a better understanding. So in proactive engagement, our officers, for instance, are doing presentations to community or in schools. They're involved in our internal youth programs, so our youth advisory committee, our youth and policing employment program, our cadets program, our soccer mentoring program, our Cuts for Kids. In the early intervention space, which personally I think is the sweet spot, that's where we're providing support to vulnerable youth. So youth who may be involved in human trafficking, who may have gone missing, youth who are involved in group homes, child welfare system, street level violence. They're managing mental health challenges in their life. The other piece in this pillar is our seconded CAS worker that we have embedded on our team to help support our officers when working with children and families in the community. In the diversion and risk mitigation pillar, there we find our pre-charge diversion referrals, which is a massive focus of our time, as well as safety and stay tables, which could be compared to a situation table or a case management table, specifically around youth who are vulnerable to human trafficking and youth who are at risk of going missing. And last but not least are last but least, I should probably say, is the incident response, which is at 20%. There, you're going to find the youth investigations, the application of the Youth Criminal Justice Act, and the communication and collaboration with our youth justice partners. Next slide, please.
The community youth unit is structured as you see in front of you. We've got a central command team, and essentially this is our team that's going to oversee the strategy and operations of the unit and the officers and what they're doing. And that being said, we've got two teams within the community youth engagement team, one that's looking after the community youth engagement team and the community school engagement team. So we have 8 officers on the community youth engagement team. And basically, they're focusing on this engagement with vulnerable, at-risk people in various communities, enhancing positive relationships. We're going to be providing support. And on the other hand, we've also got our school engagement team. We've got 4 officers currently for the entire city. And what their role is going to be is working closely with school principals and students. We're going to be looking at the issues within the schools. And essentially, they're being consulted on school issues. I wouldn't look at them as a direct response team in the sense that if something happens at a school, they're going to be first to be called. We've actually got a strategy and a structure for those scenarios, but they are very supportive in their capacity right now. And they're certainly not limited to not responding, but we've got 4 of them for 400 schools in the city of Ottawa. And to give you an example of the impact our officers are having, there's many. The one I'm going to choose to share with you is a female who is at high risk for human trafficking. She was in a group home, and we had hundreds of calls for service for her. Many different reasons for these calls. But essentially what you have is a youth that's at risk, very vulnerable, and we've got different organizations and people trying to help and turn someone's life around. And it was through the engagement of our officers on a consistent basis that not only did this young female graduate high school, but she became motivated. She set her sights on a goal after high school. She wanted to go to university, and she applied. And when the letter came in, she wasn't sure if she was accepted or not, but she did want one thing. She wanted the officers present, and she wanted her group home staff present as well. And I just think it's so touching to know that the impact we're having on these youth, the officers went to the group home, they opened up the letter, and it was an acceptance to university. I mean, this is what we want, you know? A fantastic feel-good story, but our work isn't done there. Next slide, please. Moving forward, we're gonna have to look at increasing our capacity to support the community and our school engagement team. I mentioned earlier that we've got 1 constable per district, so we've got 4 officers in total. But with Bill 33 coming in, looking for more collaboration with police services, there are certain recommendations and requirements that are in there. And we can chat about our role with that. School incidents are on the rise. And I'd like to touch on the point as well that we're engaging with our community partners to hear back from them, because our school engagement team has been within this school framework since January when we rolled it out. And I wanted to hear from the principals in all of the school boards at the high school level. I want to hear from them to see how they're feeling about our program. I can get into that detail if there's questions later, but I'll share with you in general, the response is overwhelming. They wanted to see more of our school engagement team on a more regular basis. Jess, I'll pass it over to you to finish off the last two bullet points, please.
So second, in terms of priorities for 2026, is an enhanced focus on specialized training. So we have spoken about the fact that training is really important for our officers. We heard that loud and clear, and we're committed to it. And so we rely heavily on the subject matter experts in our community in those organizations for that support. We do quarterly training. Oftentimes we go out into the community, into those organizations to meet with the staff, to learn about their clients, to learn about the issues they're managing, and to talk about collaborative opportunities moving forward. Finally, in terms of 2026 priorities, focus on accountability and measurable outcomes. So I'm sure some of you can relate, but we've been so focused on just doing the work that we haven't done a good enough job of measuring the impact and the outcomes that we're having. So we want to try to make a concerted effort for that in 2026. We now have a crime analyst on board to help with that undertaking. It is a challenge to measure upstream work when you're trying to measure what you're preventing from happening. And oftentimes that prevention piece or that early intervention piece involves long-term evaluation. But that's where we're headed. Some of those indicators we're going to be looking for are the number of youth we're diverting from the justice system, the number of partnerships and collaborative initiatives we have going on in the community, and the hopes that those trends in youth victimization and offending take a downward turn. So that is it from us. Over to the next slide where we would invite your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jessica. And Acting Sergeant McCormack. We've got three board members. So in order, I've got Member Curry, Vice Chair Carr, and Member DeRoche. So go ahead, Member Curry.
You're going to me first?
Yes, please.
Okay. So first of all, thank you very much. The decision by the school boards to not have SROs in schools, I think, was a huge mistake. If there were issues in the past, they needed to sort of look at those issues, which there were issues in the past. They needed to look at those, not cancel the program entirely. And I think there are many children that have suffered as a result of that, I think, bad decision. So I'm really glad to see that there is a new version of this. I'm sorry there was a gap in service, really. And I would say, as connected as I am to the school board and to the school boards now in my different role, I would echo every comment you made about the overwhelming positive response. Principals, teachers, students, people are very happy to see that there is a connection back to the Ottawa Police Service. So really glad to have this presentation. I guess one of the things I would say is that we have had in Canada, and I'm not speaking as a counselor now, but because I know this is all over the city, is the problem that residents are having all over the city with the TikTok challenges that the students are having. The basic ding dong ditch one that has seemed, now to get worse, where kids are vandalizing homes to be videoed. I guess I would just say, now in our communities, we have more people aware of the Cam Safe program, where you can go back and look at the video of what is happening all the way down the street, not just at one house. But I'm wondering how engaged the officers are with that whole trend for kids to do something and put it up on social media, and how coordinated you are to look at some of the video that's being posted and to figure out who it is and what's going on.
I'll ask Sergeant McCormack or Jessica to respond.
Yeah, I'll respond to that one. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. Yeah, when something like that happens, are we aware of it? Yes, we are aware of trends. We're aware of trends through our partnerships with other agencies. We're aware of trends through the schools and our open communication that we have with them. And they'll, in fact, sometimes give us a heads up on trends like this. When something like this happens, what is the community youth unit's response? I have to say it depends on what the situation is. If there's going to be charges involved in a certain scenario, the community youth unit won't be laying those charges per se. However, if it's being investigated by our detectives and it's determined there's no charges being laid, but we need these youth warned, or we're going to be considering diversion, then yes, the community youth unit will be there to assist with some of these files. And that's where our expertise and our subject matter experts as officers come in, because we are trained with youth and we do have a passion to work with youth. And we are connected with the other outside resources that we want to benefit this youth to deter this from happening again.
Great. I would say, you know, the more you can get into schools and help kids understand what the, you know, consequences are of those types of behaviors, as fun as they are in the moment, what they actually mean. I don't want to see these students charged. You know, brains aren't fully developed till they're 25 years old. So, but the education, the understanding of the consequences is really important. I guess the other thing I would say is that, you know, I happen to talk to a lot of students in my life and currently now, and I hear from them that they aren't sure where and how to report something that they know about without, you know, and remaining anonymous. So, you know, I've had students say to me, if there was like a quick way to let officers know what I know is going on in my school, I feel like I could really help. And I wonder what that looks like. Is there a QR code you put behind every bathroom door, every bathroom stall? Is there some QR code you can put up in the guidance counselor's office where kids could go in, grab it, put in some kind of information? I know that schools have done this in a completely different way just to find out other information about kids in terms of where they feel safe so that they could, you know, fix things, lighting in schools. There are ways of doing this. Have you looked at that at all?
Yes, that's been brought up. I'm part of our youth advisory committee with Ottawa Police. And not only through them, but through youth that I've engaged with, they do bring that up. And they don't trust, some of them don't trust the anonymity of the reporting at schools. Whether it is a QR code, they say it's very obvious if you're going up to click it, or they somehow feel like it could get back to them. I believe in strategizing with our partners around that. Maybe there's a better way. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we can improve that. We may need to engage partners like Crime Stoppers. But it's definitely something I think that needs to be looked at and encouraged, because let's face it, youth, like, they know what's going on, but there's so much vulnerability if it's found out that they reported anything or tipped us off.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would encourage you to look into that, because I think there are a lot of students who know a lot about what's going on in their school, know who's sitting in the parking lot and what car, what the person's name is that's selling the drugs to the students at the school. So I feel like this type of information could be easily shared if there was a way. So I leave you with that, but I can't tell you how happy I am that there's a new revamped version that is taking into consideration the feedback the school boards received, for sure, but that there isn't this, you know, dearth of options. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have Vice Chair Carr and then Member DeRoche.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this presentation. My children are in 4th and 2nd year university, so not too long out of high school. So certainly heard about the vaping in washrooms and other things that you talked about. But my question is just in terms of like the work that you're doing. How do you coordinate with other youth initiatives? Like, for example, under the city's community safety and wellbeing plan, we certainly have a pillar, youth priority neighborhoods. And how is that work? Do you coordinate it all with the city? I believe OPS has a seat on the CSWB table, but can you describe that a little bit to me?
Jess, do you feel like this would be OIJSN?
Yeah, sure. I can answer that. Thanks for the question. So yes, the short answer around the city is yes, we do have representation around the table. We also have other tables that we're connected to. So I chair here in Ottawa, it's called the Ottawa Youth Justice Services Network table. And around that table, we have service providers from all different sectors. So it says youth justice, but really it's multi-sectoral. We have education, mental health, substance use health. We certainly have some youth justice partners. anyway, every sector I think is probably represented, including members and staff from the community safety and wellbeing team, as well as Ottawa Public Health. So, so we do make every effort to try to stay in touch and coordinated around that work.
Okay, thanks. So, and I know you mentioned that you work with youth in group homes and ones that are victims of human trafficking. Some work in schools. Would you say most of the work is preventative that you're doing then? This is prevention?
Say prevention / early intervention space. And I mean, depending on where a youth is on that continuum, you know, prevention can look quite different, right? So if a young person is starting to become engaged in human trafficking, well, technically we're not doing prevention because they're already engaged, but we're doing prevention because we're trying to ensure they're not becoming further entrenched, right? So yes, we're trying to intervene as upstream as possible with young people to decrease the vulnerability, to decrease them becoming further entrenched or involved in the justice system.
Okay, great. And what do you see the biggest risks are? Like you outlined some of the trends you're seeing in terms of retail theft and vaping, this sort of stuff, increase do you have enough resources? Are there enough organizations you're working with on this? Like, is this something that's of concern? And I ask that as, in addition to being a police board member, I'm a city councillor, and we lost another youth, 21 years old, in my neighborhood just a couple weeks ago. And it's concerning, it's worrisome, and just, you know, how do we get a hold of this? What else do we need?
It's a good question, Marty, and I think it's you touched on it yourself. Like each councillor is going to have an issue in their ward, youth related, that may be of importance to them in that community, and it's valid. And the neighboring community or ward may not see the same issue. So it's difficult for me to answer your question. What are we seeing the most of, or what's concerning the most? I think it's all concerning in the sense that it can be antisocial behavior. It can lead to these bad choices aren't what we want our youth engaging in. We want pro-social activities. We want positive engagements, right? We want to be guiding our youth in a mentorship way, right? That's what we want to prevent this from happening. I do believe in working within OPS with our partnering units. So let's say, for example, you know, the BIA with Barhaven. I've worked with not just our CY unit, but we're also engaged with NRT, and we're engaged with our CPOs there, as well as the BIA and other partnering agencies to try and solve one problem. I think that's one of the approaches we should be looking at.
Okay, thanks. I know it's not an easy question that I asked.
Yeah.
But just one last question. You alluded to Bill 33, which, as I understand it, mandates school boards to, amongst other things, mandates school boards to collaborate with local police services, including looking at SRO programs, which were abandoned several years ago. What changes are being made, like as lessons learned from the previous shutdown of that program and being applied in the work that you're doing going forward? Another easy question, because those are the ones I like.
Thanks for the layups, Marty. I appreciate it. I got it. Yeah, again, Bill 33. I know it's encouraging more collaboration with police services on the school board level. There's going to be recommendations and requirements. Some of the recommendations they're looking at would be 2 lockdowns a year. Some of the requirements might be engaging your police service. If you had an SRO program, they want to see a re-engagement there. But again, this is all to be approved still. So Bill 33 hasn't passed. So it's difficult for me to say what will be. I can say though, like Ottawa Police has taken a lead in this, and with our school engagement team, I like the way we are aligned. I feel like we're prepared, and I feel like we're definitely trending in the right direction with what we've been doing so far.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you answering my questions and appreciate the presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Member DeRoche.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Curry, Member Curry led off talking about that fateful decision. I do think it was a step backwards for public safety in the city. It still mystifies me how the decision of one board would have affected the 3 other boards. It's a complete slight to those boards. And as a parent, I certainly wasn't consulted or felt that I had any say in it. And again, I think we're moving in the right direction by enhancing the program and responding to some of the concerns. But overnight, many communities will have their police presence increased by having people dedicated to their neighborhoods and their centers of learning. These are police constables that won't be pulled out to go to other calls. Hopefully, they will be building roots in the schools and supporting the safety. And I hear that from the parents, and I hear it from the teachers as well when I'm in Riverside South and Finley Creek. So pleased to see this going forward with some very thoughtful analysis. It's not just the students that we're concerned about in terms of public safety and being proactive and responding to risks. There's also some disturbing adult conduct too, in terms of people being in the school who shouldn't be, problems around the school for traffic, abuse of people like the crossing guards by some of the parents. So I wonder if you could just speak to, it's not just the students, it's safety around that bubble of the school. And sometimes it's the adults that we need to deal with.
Thanks for your question, Councillor. Yeah, we need to work closely with our school partners. And I really see this because of the amount of officers we have for the amount of work to do. We do need to address this sometimes on a case-by-case basis. So if there is something that's happened, for you use the crossing guards, for example, if it is crossing the line and it's something that should be reported to police, let's look at that police report and how we're going to do that police report. I know in the past when we had SROs, that's a call the SRO would get. And you would call your SRO and you'd say, hey, Paul, I've got a parent, I've got the license plate number and it's an ongoing issue. Can you help me with this? I'd say no problem, and I'd go deal with it. Maybe that might be talking to the parent and the driving and the behavior, and we'd mediate it that way. Now we don't have that. So we are working with what we have, and what that would look like now is it may come in to the youth inbox, and I may look at that and say, okay, here's the problem. Do we have the capacity to work with that? Is this something we should be engaging our traffic unit with, or something we should be engaging our neighborhood resource teams with? It will depend on what the issues of the school and our capacity to assist.
Okay, fair enough. At the end of the day, this is a big step forward. It will enhance public safety in schools, certainly in Riverside South and Finley Creek. And I think we're righting a wrong from several years ago. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Donaldson.
So for the record, I'm a huge fan. I've had an opportunity in 2 instances to be out with CYU officers. And I just want to follow up on Vice Chair Carr's question about prevention and sorry, Jess, kind of disagree, because what I observed in about 12 different instances over 2 separate days was an absolute lot of prevention and sort of working to sort of avoid certain things. But one of the things I just wanted to highlight, and Paul, you may want to remark on it, but one of the things in the beginning of the day of the briefing with the CYU officers, what I was extremely impressed with was the interaction of how the number of youth they know about and the updates they give each other before they go out for the day. And it's that kind of interaction and exchange of information that really seems to help them be able to deal with the youth in their area.
Thank you. We have our weekly reports, which helps us collate all this information and the great work our officers are doing. Within those weekly reports, we're also having bi-weekly meetings with our team. So this information sharing goes a long way, as well as inviting in community partners, because we also have training days, and these training days will include partnerships that we have, and we learn about what they are, who they are, what they're doing, and how we can engage them more. So I'm glad you got a chance to go out and see firsthand the work we're doing and a general day in the workload that's there.
Is there such a thing as a general day?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? So I want to follow up on a question that Vice Chair Carr asked as well. And I think I'm just going to push a little bit more. So I'm supportive of the program of closer relationships with schools and school boards. But I want to push on the lessons learned on why the last program was canceled and what lessons have been learned from that. And I think we heard from a delegate earlier today as well, saying, you know, marginalized youth, Black, Indigenous, 2S LGBTQ plus, they don't feel, I think he used the word comforted when police are in the area. And I think there's some lessons that are to be learned from the last time. So I just want to push a little further. What are those lessons, and how are we going to ensure that what happened last time around, where there was this maybe over surveillance of certain individuals, of certain backgrounds, of marginalized individuals, doesn't happen this time? What's the mitigation measure? What's the check?
I feel we need to look at our consultation. I think if people are feeling this way, it's important to hear their voice. And if they're reluctant to come forward to a table, we do need to hear their voice, because their voice not only matters, but it helps us strategize and guide. And if we're doing something that isn't working or is a detriment to our community, we need to know. And there's, in my opinion, no other way to know but to have this dialogue. And we have to have a dialogue that is in a safe space, it's inviting, but to me, it needs to happen. And I think for me, that's one of the lessons learned from the last program, which is if people have these concerns, we need to hear about it so we can address it.
And how is that feedback loop going to be built into the work that you do? Because they won't necessarily come to you, right? Like that's part of the issue. If there's no trust, if there's a fear, why would they even, like, how are you going to incorporate that feedback loop? And I see Deputy Chief Burnett has his hand up, so maybe I'll just go to him.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You know, and I would say that for OPS, we do realize that we need to reimagine what, and I say this in quotes, school resource officer is. And we've started with the actual changing of that name. That is a key indicator that we understand, and like Sergeant McCormack says, that consultation really is important. And while, you know, there may be belief that they won't come to us, I think there will be a large volume of the community that will want to have their say when we do get together to see what is it that you expect of your community youth officer. So, you know, I've always said that, you know, getting back into schools is really key, but not the same process. Changing how we do that is an important step to sort of meeting the needs of those kids that are in those schools. And for those kids that, you know, do fear the police, what better place to kind of learn and to understand that, you know, what we're trying to accomplish than in a school setting. So I will leave it with that, and happy to answer any more questions.
Thank you, Deputy. Any other questions from board members? If not, I want to thank you for the presentation on the community youth unit. Thank you, Acting Sergeant McCormack. Thank you, Jessica Ripley. Very much appreciate you coming and presenting to us and giving us a better understanding of the work you are doing. So very much appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'll read in the recommendation that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this presentation for information. Is the presentation received?
Received.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which I have is 8.8. This is the CSPA update training compliance current state. And I believe Member Donaldson asked for this to be held.
I did, and I've got one fairly quick question, which will hopefully not result in an extended answer. But this time last year, when we started looking at the impact of the CSPA, training and the training component was something that we could only project. So I'm wondering, a year later, what's our understanding as far as what it cost us in the past year to do the required CSPA training, and what are we projecting the cost will be in 2026?
Chief, can I send that to you or your team?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Member Dawson. I will bring this over to Deputy Bell here in 1 second. Yeah, the costs have been very difficult, and some of the regulations got wrote after the implementation of the CSPA. We didn't know what was coming as well too. We have a better idea now on a number of levels. Some of the equipment and training that we have to deliver. You saw in the report we're struggling in a few areas, some of it related to our facilities and whatnot, and bandwidth to get all this training done. But in terms of the costs, Steve, I'll go to you for some of that.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. Thanks, Member Donaldson. So we actually don't have exact costs on what all the training requirements will be. As we've implemented, as you see through the report, I think we're doing a really good job in making sure that we're becoming compliant with the CSPA. And as we've identified all the needs around that, I don't think in the last little while we've actually been breaking out those costs, because they aren't a special individual cost now. They're just a cost of us doing business by meeting the legislation. We would be happy to look at itemizing those for you and bringing them back to you if that's what you wanted, but we aren't currently tracking them in the same way we were a year ago.
I think what my question was related to, my concern was just that it was so unknown last year, right? And I think we just posted, I could be wrong. I think we just took a bookmark and stuck something on the wall and said, this is what it is. So I recognize the report details. A lot of work has gone on. I was just curious if we'd had a better benchmark as far as what it was going to be, but I think that was answered. Thank you, Deputy Bell.
Thank you. Any other questions? I do have one question, and maybe I just need a further explanation. It's the immediate rapid deployment training. And I note in there that the completion stands at 38%. So are we tracking to full completion by a certain date, or just if you can provide any further information on that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. That is one that we are struggling at. There has been training in the past on this particular course. It is very intense. You need a property to do so. Our facilities have hampered us from an ability to complete some of that training. So they are actively solutioning ways to get us in line. Deputy Bell, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that. It is something we flagged though and have our eye on.
Yeah, no, the only thing I would say is our facility section is looking at procuring something. It is the ability to access a facility, and it's really specific and unique facility that we have to get, because it's very dynamic training. So we are currently on track to look at securing a location. We'll come back to the board, hopefully with a mid to longer term lease, to have that training facility ready.
And that's kind of separate and apart from the Slack facility, which we're having issues with as well, right? Yeah. And is there a plan to move forward on sort of on Slack or what's the proposed next steps with respect to Slack facility?
Yeah, Deputy, we talked about this morning actually when we went into some discussions. I'll let you answer, please.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be coming to the board shortly. We're continuing to work with the school board to get a lease established for Slack Road. So we'll be coming back to the board. We're hoping next month with a lease arrangement with them. We continue to do upgrades on the building. As the board knows, it's a retired school, elementary school, 2 retired elementary schools. It isn't. It's a facility that meets our needs in the interim, as long as we do the required upgrades that we need to it, which we're in the progress of doing, until we ultimately have the ability to build the new training facility on South. It is not an ideal training location, but it meets our needs currently for a shorter, more definite period of time.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Any other comments? Board members? Okay, I'll read in the recommendation that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Great, thank you. I think we are now at 8.15, letters of commendation. Just let me confirm that that's the case. Yeah, that's what I have in my notes. So we're at 8.15, letters of commendation. I'll turn it over to you, Chief, and maybe Deputy Chief Fergus or Burnett, I think, right?
Yes, I think you're correct. Paul.
Thank you. Got a couple of really good commendations to read here, and in light of our recent retail thefts, I think this particular one was very prudent. It's dated September 23rd from a member of the public, and it's about Constable Lalonde. Dear Chief Stubbs, I'm writing this letter to express my appreciation on behalf of the staff and customers under the TJX banner. Your officer, Christopher Lalonde, has supported our store by assisting the TJX loss prevention team with the apprehension and deterrence of known shoplifters. Constable Lalonde worked diligently over several months with our loss prevention team. His outstanding support, professionalism, and work ethic speaks volumes for I believe this is Ottawa Police Service. Constable Lalonde brings a strong sense of duty, integrity, and we at TJX felt it was important to ensure his efforts and recognize at a leadership level. His innovative approach and genuine concern for his jurisdiction are truly commendable. His presence not only motivated and strengthened effectiveness of our loss prevention team, but also made both our staff and customers feel safer. We are truly grateful for his continued support and commitment. Thank you for investing your officer's time and effort to deal with the reoccurring shoplifting problem in Ottawa. Best regards. A second commendation, again from a member of the public, and deals with a police communicator, C. Goncalves Pimentel. Dear Ottawa Police Service Comm Center Dispatch Team, I am writing to offer my sincere apology for the way I spoke during my 911 call today at approximately 11 a.m. In a moment of stress and fear, I let my frustrations get the better of me, and I was rude and disrespectful towards the dispatcher who was only doing her job. I deeply regret my tone. I recognize that your team is under pressure, responding to emergencies and serving the public with patience and professionalism. I failed to show that respect during our interaction, and I'm truly sorry for an extra strain my words may have caused. Thank you for the assistance you provided despite my behavior. I appreciate the vital service your team performs every day for our community, and it will make every effort to remain courteous and composed in stressful situations in the future. All the best. And then the last two I would like to read deals with a member of the public, and it's towards Constable Poulton, Constable Hart, and Constable Arbor. I work as a crisis counselor. Our team also works in partnership with Mental Health Unit, Ottawa Police Service. I wanted to write to acknowledge the efforts, professionalism, and compassion of three of your constables, Constable Chris Poulton, Constable Andre Hart, and Constable Melanie Arbor. Recently, a patient involved with our program experienced an acute mental health crisis with worsening psychotic symptoms. A Form 1 was issued by the treating psychiatrist. I reviewed the circumstances with MHU and the officers responded. I know that officers confront this situation on a regular basis, and it can be fraught with complications and escalation. In this particular situation, I cannot emphasize enough the professionalism, compassion, and humanity that the officers displayed in carrying out the potentially difficult task of having the patient brought to the hospital. In most cases, including this one, patients can be fearful, suspicious, and uncooperative. In this situation, your officers took time to talk to the patient with compassion and respect. They explained in a caring manner why this would help the patient. They were reassuring and calming. By the time they were finished, the patient was not only willing, but wanted to attend the hospital for assessment. Police officers are often the first to interact with individuals experiencing a mental health and/or substance use crisis. This example demonstrates the effective partnership between police services, healthcare providers, and the community. In this regard, I wanted to express my thanks to Constable Poulton, Constable Andre, and Constable Melanie Arbor. And then the last one I would like to share is regards to Constable Laviolette. Dear Constable Laviolette, I hope this message reaches you in good spirits. I wanted to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for everything you do, not just as an officer, but as a person with a kind and caring heart. I'm the girl in the red dress from the mosque in Barhaven. You may not remember me, but your presence left a lasting impression. The way you carried yourself, calm, respectful, and compassionate, spoke volumes about your character. In a world where kindness often goes unnoticed, I wanted you to know that your efforts are seen and appreciated. Every act of service, every moment of patience, and every bit of understanding you show makes a difference, more than you realize. You stand as a reminder that there are still people who serve with empathy, who protect with heart, and who lead with humility. Please continue doing what you do because your light reaches people, even when you don't see it. May God bless you always, protect you in every step, and reward you immensely for all the good you do, both seen and unseen, with respect, gratitude, and dua. And that concludes my commendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Any comments from board members? Again, thank you for that. I'll read in the recommendation that the Ottawa Police Service Board received the letters of commendation October 2025 for information. Is the item received?
Received.
We're on now agenda item other business. Final agenda item. Do any board members have any other business to raise? Seeing none, this concludes our public meeting. Our next regular meeting will be held on November 24th, 2025. Can I please have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Oh, wait, are you moving the motion? Yep. Michael?
Yes.
Member Bowen? Yes. Excellent. Thank you. We are adjourned and hope everyone gets to watch a little bit of the Blue Jay game tonight.